need? How do you supply yourself with enough energy? Let's stay with that last question. What about the efficiency of wind power? And how do we achieve the biggest output? There are two good points to this question that the Dutch can answer. First, the extensive research program that leads to an increasing output. And second, they have many centuries of experience with this kind of energy. The Dutch have drained their polders this way to achieve more land to cultivate. But how can you achieve the greatest yield per acre to answer the ever-growing demand for good nourishment? In small, densely populated Holland, they have the answer. And even in spite of their lack of space and the uncertain climate, the Dutch have achieved a greater productivity per acre than anywhere else in the world. Among others, they developed this equipment to control the climate. Dutch greenhouses keep the warmth in, but they can also keep the warmth out, as you can see here in Florida. This amazing productivity on such a small piece of ground is the result of research at this agricultural university. Here, from small pieces of tissue, they grow big plants, all identical and free of diseases. Due to this system of propagation, the Dutch grow more and better ornamental plants. They harvest a better yield of crops, which in turn leads to a higher quality of nutrition. And they even grow better fruit trees, like these prunes. Well, now you've seen the windmills, you've seen the polders, and here is the famous Dutch cheese. But computer-controlled automation is far more important in the production of cheese than you might think. And the equipment, of course, is Dutch. After the cheese and butter have been extracted from the milk, this is what remains. Milk protein for the international food industry. Lactose for the preparation of many pharmaceutical products. Dutch research and development provides products of the highest quality for more than half of the world's needs. There's hardly a country in the world that doesn't use eggs, either for direct consumption or in the food industry. It is extremely important that egg selection is carried out with knowledge and expertise, and once again, it is the Dutch who have mastered this form of technology. Here in Ohio, you'll find this machine made in Holland. It selects eggs for direct consumption or for the food industry. It's completely automatic and computer controlled. The collar on this cow, believe it or not, is part of a Dutch computer system. It provides information and data on body temperature, the volume of milk provided by the animal, and the amount of food she needs. All this information is transmitted to a detector, which in turn feeds a computer. And with one push of a button, information is received from each individual animal. So it is the computer that decides when this animal gets its next feed. This is the traditional Dutch dike, which protects Dutch polders. But today, they need something even more efficient. And so they designed and built these technological masterpieces to act against the most arduous and destructive elements of the sea. Now it can be controlled at will, and the flow regulated to the necessary requirements. A lot of research went into the building of this project, and they're still investigating the behavior and influence of the water in and around self-made Holland. current and waves are continuously monitored and transmitted by this equipment. The power is generated by solar energy. Solar energy in cloudy Holland? Yes, fact is often stranger than fiction. One of Holland's technical institutions, TNO, developed a spectral selective coating which enables the heat of the sun to be collected and contained even in cloudy conditions. The quality and sensitivity of this coating is such that it is accepted as a standard for the European solar panel system. Outside Europe, it can be very hot. So the Dutch have developed a cobalt coating which is resistant to extreme heat. Because of the safety factor in Holland, where there was too much water, the Dutch drained the lakes and turned them into polders. Holland had very few natural resources, so this led to a lot of ingenuity and research in the area of natural science. Already, at the beginning of this century, we find Nobel Prize winners among the scientists of Holland. Then they discovered natural gas beneath their own soil and became world experts in the transportation and distribution of gas. However, condensation was a problem that had to be overcome. The question was how to separate the condensate from the gas. They overcame this problem simply by establishing the behavior pattern of the condensate and distilling a solution. With the regularity of a clock, the Dutch developed, well, here are a few examples. The phaser microscope. The avio bridges. The whispering Fokker F-28. The popular F-27. Universal music cassettes. The efficient transmission system used in all kinds of vehicles. The list is never ending. Did you know that this clock mechanism was invented as long ago as 1658 by Christian Huygens, a Dutchman? On average, about once every 5 years, the Dutch seem to show the world that they are very much a part of today's technology. This is the Alpha Bay, a dredging vessel. And how does it get rid of its load? Simply by splitting in half. As we said at the beginning, you have to set your sails according to the direction of the wind. This has become a necessity everywhere in the world, especially when we refer to food, energy, natural resources, and the environment. These days we live with the knowledge that accidents can happen, which means the environment could suffer. One of those accidents is being expertly dealt with here by the Cosmos, a ship specifically designed to face the problem of oil pollution. And once having cleaned up the sea, the oil is recycled for further use, a Dutch invention. However, under normal conditions, she's used as a dredging vessel, a matter of practical thinking. In a densely populated country like Holland, you need control and coordination in every aspect. Traffic, for instance. At first glance, this junction looks perfectly normal, with normal traffic lights. But these traffic lights are controlled by their own personal computer, which is in fact independent of a central traffic computer. This car is approaching a junction. But the computer feels that these long-waiting cyclists have priority, so the electronic brain decides to change the lights in their favor. Should a technical problem develop, the computer immediately picks up the phone and calls central control to inform them. The same problems relate to the larger cities. So the Dutch developed this computerized system to be applied to the motorways, autobahnen, and autoroute all over Europe. In a prosperous society where people consume more products, there is obviously a lot of garbage produced. The question is, how do you dispose of garbage in such quantities without creating a health hazard in the environment? The answer is, you don't. You recycle it. You make new paper from old paper, new plastic from old plastic, new metal from old metal, and compost from what is left. The process of separating the garbage is carried out here in this experimental prototype plant. It is so successful that we now find several full-scale installations throughout Europe, like this one in Vienna. Another experimental installation is this, contained at TNO. It is the fluid bed method of burning coal with a mixture of sand and oxygen, creating a far higher energy output with less pollution. This is West Virginia, where surface coal mining plays an important role in the economy of the state. An enormous machine, innovated in a tiny country, Holland. Talking about big Dutch machines, this is a trench maker. It will cut a trench or furrow up to 30 feet deep, simultaneously laying a pipeline for the purpose of draining the soil of excess water. Whatever the consistency of the soil, this machine works equally well in France as it does in the California salt desert. In this way, the salt subsoil water is carried away. The positioning of the pipes, both horizontal and vertical, is determined by this rotating laser beam, which creates a ceiling over the entire area. The laser beam covers such a vast area that it can be fixed at one point, so no time is lost by replacement. The entire project is controlled via this antenna. The precise depth and position of the pipes is therefore guaranteed. Holland is, as we said, a very small country. It's 200 kilometers by 100 kilometers, which in other words is 120 miles by 60 miles. But it has a large population, in fact more than 14 million people. So Holland is a densely populated country. One-third of the people work in industry. More than half of them work in public services. Only 1 in 20 work in agriculture. Altogether, these 14 million people have quite a few problems to solve. About living, about environment, about employment, about raw materials, about energy. It is not by accident that so many new developments come from the Dutch. They have learned that to accumulate, you must first speculate. And for that, you need research and development. As an example, this equipment uses ionized gas to improve the output of a power station by 20%. Essential items like these are developed more quickly in Holland than in many other larger countries. For many years, there has been research and development by large and famous Dutch companies like Philips, Unilever, Shell, and many others. But a country that develops and exploits so many different products cannot exist entirely on a handful of multinationals. A couple of thousand small and medium-sized companies have a great influence on the economy of the country. Together, they employ more than 3 million people. A lot of research and development for these companies is done internally. Holland is no exception in that. What is exceptional is all these small and medium-sized companies can avail themselves of all the research and development facilities offered by an important number of universities and technical institutions. As a case in point, take these two pieces of metal being welded together by remote control, useful underwater and in nuclear power stations. Another example, when this equipment is installed in a motor vehicle, it makes it possible to drive on any mixture of alcohol and gasoline. And yet a further example. This foreign radar system is being tested in an enclosed area, and that is a Dutch invention. Aerodynamic constructions are tested in supersonic wind tunnels in Holland. This method of testing rockets for space exploration is unique. All this research and development is not only meant for use in Holland, it is in fact exploited throughout the world. TNO has designed this coin selector for use in automats. "4,000 miles away in Philadelphia, it is being manufactured and is in operation all over America. Viennese buses with diesel engines have been modified to run on liquid gas. Less noise, less pollution. Dutch invention. Let's recap. The recycling of garbage. Cattle control by computerized collars. Fully automatic egg selection for public consumption and industrial uses. Greenhouses with climate regulation. Trench diggers by laser control. Throughout the world, the winds of change have been blowing for some time. That's why you'll see so many clever solutions to new problems. And in many cases, you will hear it said, "It's incredible. It's from Holland."